You are looking for a solution that manages all of your preferences against an individual, and part of that management will be to manage degradation of consent. So what do I mean by that? Well, you already said to me earlier, we don't know when we got that consent already within the database. I don't know when the last time we spoke to that individual was. All these different non-knowns. What we're able to do is say, well, actually, if we get consent from somebody, how long is that consent valid for? And at that point, what will the system do at that point when it says that the degradation of that consent is no longer valid? So we could say, well, okay, well, our business policy is to have consent that's been given to us for 180 days.
Is that typically what most people are doing?
There isn't a typical, I'm afraid to say, and it has to be a decision that's worked through with our support, case studies that are out there, and also your legal and governance and privacy teams.
But with the law changing, is that going to be set in stone, do you think, or is it going to?
No, not at all, because it really depends on the, there are a number of different principles of how long typically you would have that customer and how long typically you would expect that consent to be valid for. So let me give you some examples. We're talking about a car database here, okay? So let's say, for instance, I'm a customer who's been into the business and I've purchased a car on a 4-year lease deal with you today, Simon. And I've given you my consent to communicate to me over that 4-year period for services, MOT year 4, and actually to come back to me with new vehicle lease offers in my final year of my lease. I've given you those free permissions, and I've told you actually now within your system, I want you to manage that and to communicate that back to me at the right touch points. Now, if I've given you that consent and I'm in a relationship with you for 4 years...
That's a reasonable business practice at that point.
Absolutely.
Right.
Now, if I'm a prospect, let's say, for instance, I'm a totally different individual, I'm a prospect and I've just met you on the forecourt and you've come out to meet me and you've shown me the BMW and we've had a test drive of it. And I give you my consent to send me information over the next...
Send me a brochure.
Send me a brochure. Yeah. Is it fair and reasonable to expect that consent would be valid for the next 4 to 5 years?
Probably not, no.
No. You'd probably say my purchasing moment is probably 6 months to buy that new car.
Yeah,
if that. So as a business, we'd make a decision and say, what's fair to the customer here? And we would set that.
So this could be a channel. This could be an individual channel within the business.
Absolutely.
As in a 3-month pre-sales channel.
Yeah. Remember, this is about transparency and choice.
Right.
The more choice you give your customer, the more consent they'll give you. And we can prove that.
All right, okay.
Okay? So, we now have to say, this app parent channel we're creating, that we've given it a description and we've put the degradation of consent in there. If someone's given me consent through this app channel, when am I going to take the consent away? Am I going to select this and attribute it to a parent channel? And we're going to define this at the moment as a parent channel. We're going to create a brand new parent channel out of this. And we're going to save it. And that list that had all of my parent channels in there, we'll see that I've now created a brand new parent channel appear at the top.
Okay.
So instantly, within 5 minutes, you can introduce new channels as your business grows and develops and takes different approaches to communication to customers. The same process then, if I wanted to assign a subcategory to this, a granularized sub-activity to this parent channel solution, and we can say, right, the actual name to this is app new vehicle sales, and as a category, we're going to call this new vehicle sales. And the reason we're going to call it new vehicle sales is we're going to have second-hand vehicle sales, we're going to have parts, we're going to have servicing, we're going to break this out, but right now we're going to create these subcategories. We're going to give it a description and we're going to say this is for the branches, sales teams to use on the forecourt. So their current sales process is to be using the app through their iPad, talking to the individual, and that's how we're going to gain this consent to these new vehicle sales. With this particular one, we believe that window, you just said to me that the window of buying opportunity is probably only about 3 months.
Yeah.
So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a 90-day degradation of consent, because actually I think that's what the customer wants.
Yeah.
Okay? And this isn't a parent channel. This time we're going to put it into the sub-parent channel. So it can be picked up on the app, okay, by the individual. All we've done here is almost like creating the business logic within the system is what we're creating here. We're saying, how do we typically communicate with a customer, through what channel, and what types of activities are we going to communicate to them about?
The really interesting thing you said to me, and what we would be interested in, is increasing the opt-in rate.
Okay.
So, and you said giving people the choice will give them the more incentive to opt in, because I know I'm not going to be abused, and my preference will be respected, so to speak. Yeah.
All the data shows that you give the customer the transparency and choice, and they respond positively to it. Your marketing teams spend a lot of money looking at how they segment out individual groups within your database and how they communicate to them as individuals based on that specific profile characteristic they have. And we've spent years and years building up those customer journeys, those user experiences. And gathering consent's no different. Why should we speak to one segment of your database and ask for consent through a typical channel, and then ask for a completely different segment of your database and ask for it in exactly the same manner through the same channel? I'll give you an example of that. If you've got a 75-year-old retiree sat within your database, typically they would like a DM channel, a more traditional channel. They have like a lot of information about how their data's being used, and they really like the time to be able to read and digest what the business is doing. It's about trust.